Hello again, everybody. Gary Ferman and Stephen Wagner here, and today we are analyzing the commitment of one Marcellius Pulliam, the linebacker from Georgia, who a little bit of a surprise on Saturday night committed to the Miami Hurricanes. And Stephen, this is an interesting one because Marcellius is a three-star. He's not necessarily a kid that a lot of people know a lot about coming out of Sandy Creek High School in Tyrone, Georgia. But when you turn on the videotape, you start to see some talent. It might not be as refined as some people might like. He's very raw. But he's very physical. He likes to hit people, and I think there's a lot to work with there for the Miami Hurricanes. As long as you're not expecting him to come in day one and be Ray Lewis or Dan Morgan.
Yeah, I really think that's a great way to put it. He's not a guy who I think fans should expect to come in and be Ray Lewis right away. I don't think he should be this game-changing linebacker who's going to help transform a Miami defense overnight. But you look at his game tape, and he was someone who kind of came out of nowhere a little bit. I heard about this commitment, and I was like, wait, what? And I had to go through, and I had to do a little bit of research on him. I had to find his tape, and I had to watch through that stuff because there was quite a bit that I didn't know about him. But after you sort through this stuff, you really can see why Miami did have a little bit of interest in him. He's a raw natural athlete. You look at his tape, and you can tell that he is a hyper talented, hyper athletic kid who, and I think this is both kind of a good thing and a bad thing, is used to being the best and most explosive player on the field at all times, if not one of the best and most explosive players on the field. A lot of his highlights are him, lining up, shooting gaps, making these big hits, lowering his shoulder. Yeah, you see him right there. Knocks the.
He's number 8 in the video, by the way, everybody.
Yeah, you see him just knocking the absolute crud out of players. He's always looking to make the big play, lay the big hit. And that's because, you can see he looks like a Division I athlete in these videos. And he looks like he's the best athlete on the field. He's bigger than everyone. He's faster than everyone. He's stronger than everyone. And he's got that natural football instinct. He times snaps in this tape exceptionally well. You can see him lining up and shooting the A-gap. Here you see him on the little outside sweep. He fights off a couple blocks and fits that perfectly. He's obviously not going to do that right away at the college level because he's going to be at a level where he is not the best athlete on the field. That's just going to be a simple fact. And so for him, I think the biggest test is going to be how is he able to adjust to being at the college level where he's no longer the best athlete on the field and he can't rely on his raw athleticism to make up for mistakes that he makes elsewhere on the field. He's going to have to get much more sound in his technique. He's going to need to do a better job of recognizing schemes. But the raw talent and the potential is there. He's absolutely a football player who has a natural nose for the football. I definitely think that there's a little bit of room for improvement in terms of, doing a better job recognizing schemes and, dropping into coverages. He doesn't look fantastic whenever he's asked to drop into coverage and, just be a dog in space. But he's an absolute animal in the run game. And he's incredibly effective as a pass rusher, too. I would be terrified if I was a high school quarterback and I had to stare down this guy coming at me with a full head of steam. That's something that's very disconcerting. So I think his development is going to be a really big question here. And how does he adjust to no longer being the best athlete on the field? I think that's the biggest question for me with a kid like this.
Well, a couple things stand out to me. One, I love the guy who does his highlight tapes when he puts those titles in there like royalty and such. They obviously feel very highly about Marcellius up there at Sandy Creek in Georgia. But the other thing that stands out to me a little bit is his tackling. And when I watch him tackle, he looks a lot like James Williams to me. He is just using his size advantage to just plow into people. And he's going to need a lot of technique work in terms of wrapping up in the college game and breaking down and the tackling techniques that he uses that have worked at the high school level are probably not going to work as well at the college level. So he's going to need some work there as well, being royalty at Miami like he is at Sandy Creek. But there's another thing that really stood out to me, Stephen, and that is that I'm not seeing a lot of plays in traditional run plays made up the field. Like, he's a big hitter. He pounds people. He gets out there in the open field and he hits people. But I'm not seeing a lot of reading and reacting just yet, and a lot of plays in the backfield. So I think that's something that's going to have to, come along with it if they keep him at linebacker. But I'm going to throw something else out at you right now. I look at this guy. He looks to me like an edge rusher. He looks to me like a guy that's going to be a special teams freak and a guy that they're going to have to probably utilize as an edge rusher, even if it's as a linebacker. I think that's going to be where he excels earliest in his career. Now, Miami's got a lot of edge rushers, and Miami's been stockpiling edge rushers. So, Marcellius is going to have to work his way in. I would not expect a ton his freshman year. I think he's going to be more of a developmental type prospect, like you said. But when you factor in his athleticism, the way he likes to hit, I like his swagger. You always see him bouncing up, and he's a fiery player, and you can use that, okay, in a lot of different ways. And so for all of those reasons, I like this pickup. I think it's a good one by the Miami staff. Your closing thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good pickup too. I definitely think there's a place for him at a school like Miami. What that place is specifically, kind of to be determined, because division kids who are being recruited to schools like Miami of this size, this prestige, and this history, I don't think there's a single recruit that Miami's had probably since the 1980s that hasn't thought, yeah, I'm coming here so I can go to the NFL. Every single kid, every single recruit that a school like this lands thinks, yeah, I am going to be that guy. I am going to be, a Dick Butkus Award winner. I'm going to, help lead the best defense in the country. Every single one of these kids has that kind of instilled in them. And for some of them, adjusting to a smaller role, may be kind of challenging. It may be challenging for him to say, hey, I think, the place where I'm most effective might be on special teams. I might be a really good dime or quarter package guy who you can just kind of flick out there on the edge to get some pressure on a quarterback. That might be something that's a little bit difficult to adjust to. But I'm really curious to see how the Canes envision using him defensively, because I think that there's a lot of possibilities for a kid with this kind of athleticism, but I think so much of it is just going to kind of come down to adjusting to scheme, adjusting to the idea of no longer being the best athlete on the field, and being in a place where every single hit is not going to be the big hit, because you're going to be hitting guys who, quite frankly, can just bounce right off of that. So I definitely think there's going to be an adjustment period for this kid. But that being said, his raw athleticism and his raw talent 100% is there, and I completely get why Miami would go after a kid like this.
Nothing wrong with being a scheme linebacker early in your career, if that's the way it evolves. Nothing wrong with being a special teams terror. And that is where I would expect Marcellius Pulliam to first make his impact at Miami. Well, that's our look at Marcellius Pulliam, the latest Miami commit. Thank you for joining us today. If you like this content, hit your subscribe button, hit your like button. Helps us with the algorithms at YouTube, grow our channel. If you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please hustle on over to the website and subscribe today. So for Stephen Wagner, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody.